Welcome to our final project where we are covering surveillance, fairness, and employee well-being in hybrid work environments. The shift to remote and hybrid work over the last decade, accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, has fundamentally reshaped the workplace. From 2010 to 2022, remote work grew by 159%, prompting employees to adopt digital tools to maintain visibility into employee performance. These tools range from passive methods like keyboard and mouse activity tracking to more active methods like webcam surveillance and screen recording. Our research is built around two primary questions. First, how do hybrid environments influence employee perceptions of fairness and trust, particularly when surveillance is applied differently, depending on whether someone is working remotely or in person? Second, despite these differences and potential feelings of being over-monitored, do employees still prefer remote work arrangements? To analyze these questions, we drew from organizational justice theory, which offers a framework for understanding how fairness is perceived in the workplace. Three dimensions are especially relevant. Procedural justice asks whether processes and policies are applied consistently. Informational justice considers whether decisions are clearly communicated and explained. And interpersonal justice deals with how respectfully employees are treated.
Organizational justice theory highlights that fairness involves both outcomes and the way processes are carried out. This plays out clearly in hybrid work settings. Hybrid work creates different visibility rules. Remote staff rely on digital cues like status lights, camera use, and quick responses to show engagement, while in-office staff benefit from being seen in person and having casual check-ins. When these visibility standards are inconsistent, employees question fairness and trust in leadership. Without transparency on how visibility is assessed, monitoring can feel like control instead of support, which damages trust over time. Next slide. One of the most consistent patterns in the literature is the unequal application of surveillance. Remote employees are often subject to invasive digital tools that track their activity down to the second. In contrast, in-person employees tend to be evaluated more informally through hallway conversations, visible attendance, or interpersonal relationships. This imbalance creates what scholars describe as a dual-class system. One group is hypervisible through technology, the other is presumed trustworthy by virtue of being physically present. The result is not just procedural unfairness, but a symbolic message. Remote employees are less trusted and must prove their value through constant digital performance. Next slide. This unequal monitoring takes a psychological toll. Remote employees often report feeling mistrusted, which reduces their sense of autonomy and increases stress. Many adopt coping strategies, like always being online, answering messages instantly, or avoiding breaks to appear engaged. Over time, this leads to digital fatigue, a sense of being always on, and ultimately burnout. Even those who prefer working from home begin to feel the emotional weight of constant observation. Surveillance, which is often framed as a neutral tool, becomes an emotional burden that impacts job satisfaction, creativity, and long-term engagement. Next slide.
The negative effects of surveillance are not evenly distributed. Neurodiverse individuals, such as those with ADHD or anxiety, often rely on routines that involve breaks, movement, or nonlinear work patterns. Constant surveillance can disrupt these routines, reducing performance and increasing stress. Similarly, caregivers, especially parents and those caring for elderly family members, may need flexibility during the day. Digital surveillance doesn't account for these needs. Instead, it penalizes deviations from the norm, reinforcing existing workplace inequalities. For these populations, surveillance can limit advancement, deepen exclusion, and challenge their ability to thrive in hybrid environments. Next slide. Despite the clear downsides, employees, especially caregivers and neurodiverse workers, still overwhelmingly prefer remote work. The ability to control their schedule, avoid long commutes, and better manage personal responsibilities outweighs the discomfort of being monitored. However, this doesn't mean they accept unfairness. Many view surveillance as a compromise, something they're willing to tolerate, not embrace. The key takeaway here is that organizations need to recognize that remote work is not the problem. Unequal treatment and lack of transparency are. Employees are asking for flexibility and fairness, not immunity from accountability. Next slide.
To address these issues, we propose several recommendations. First, apply procedural and informational justice. Research shows that when employees are included in shaping surveillance practices, their trust and engagement rise. Second, organizations should shift the framing of surveillance from control to support, focusing on tools that help employees thrive, not just monitor their activity. This requires a cultural shift from distrust to dialogue, from compliance to collaboration. Finally, surveillance policies must be transparent and consistent across hybrid teams. Both remote and in-person employees need to understand what data is collected, how it's used, and why it matters. Next slide. In conclusion, surveillance in hybrid work environments isn't just a technical issue, it's a cultural and ethical one. When monitoring is unevenly applied, trust is eroded, psychological safety declines, and vulnerable populations are disproportionately harmed. Yet the solution isn't to abandon surveillance altogether. Rather, it's to make it fair, transparent, and inclusive. As hybrid work becomes a permanent feature in the modern workplace, we must ensure that flexibility and autonomy are not traded for inequality and control. Sustainable work environments are built not only on performance metrics, but also on fairness, trust, and human dignity. Next slide. We have outlined our references here that were included throughout the presentation, and we thank you all for watching.